It started like every other night. I was sitting at my desk, laptop open, half listening to lo-fi beats while editing photos for my freelance project. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the ceiling fan and the faint city noise leaking through my window. It was late, almost 1 a.m., the hour when everything feels softer, slower, and somehow more fragile. I was finishing up my edits when my screen flickered. Just a brief stutter, like the power had surged, and then everything went black. My heart jumped. Before I could react, the laptop rebooted on its own. I watched the cursor blink on the login screen, frozen for a moment before my password typed itself in. Automatically, letter by letter. I froze. For a few seconds, I just stared, waiting for my mind to catch up. Maybe my keyboard was malfunctioning. Maybe there was some weird auto-login bug. But then the desktop loaded, and my webcam light turned on. That tiny, piercing white dot in the corner of my laptop stared back at me. I covered it with my thumb, my pulse thudding hard in my neck. I was breathing too loudly. Then the cursor began to move, slowly. It opened my browser, my email, my files, my photos, all without me touching anything. I yanked the plug, slammed the laptop shut, and just sat there for a second in silence. My breath came in quick, short bursts. I told myself I was overreacting. It was probably a virus, some remote access glitch. Still, I unplugged everything, the modem, router, power cords, and sat in the dark for a while, phone clutched tight in my hand. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I ran a full scan on my laptop. Malware found. A few files corrupted. A few unfamiliar applications installed. I deleted everything, reset passwords, changed accounts. It took hours, but by noon I felt better. Safer, maybe. Until I got the message. It was from an anonymous email address. No subject line. Just a single sentence. You shouldn't have done that. I stared at it, reading and rereading until my eyes hurt. My first thought was a prank, some bored troll who'd somehow gotten my info. I deleted the message and forced myself to move on. But that night, I noticed something different. When I got home, my chair was slightly pulled out from my desk. Not much, just enough to make me stop. My laptop, which I had left closed, was open, and the webcam light was on again. Over the next few days, little things started happening. My phone battery drained faster than usual. I'd hear faint static when I was on calls. My smart speaker would light up at random times, responding to commands I never gave. Then came the pictures. They were in a hidden folder buried deep inside my system, all time-stamped from the past few nights. Dozens of grainy images taken from my webcam, of me, sleeping. I stared at them for a long time, my stomach tightening until I thought I might be sick. I lived alone. No one had my keys. I called the police that afternoon. They took my statement, scanned the laptop, told me it was likely a case of remote access malware. They couldn't trace the email address or find any real signs of forced entry. Their advice: reset my system, buy a new router, and be more careful online. That night, I slept with every light on. Days passed. I deleted my social media accounts, changed my email, and even stopped using my laptop altogether. I bought a cheap flip phone, the kind without a camera or apps. I tried to convince myself it was over, and for a while, it was. Until one evening, when I came home from work and found a flash drive sitting on my doormat. No note, no markings, just a plain black drive. My first instinct was to throw it away, but curiosity won. I plugged it into an old spare laptop, one I hadn't used in years, disconnected from Wi-Fi. There was a single folder labeled "Hello Again." Inside were videos, dozens of them, all recorded through my webcam. But these weren't from my apartment. They were from my office, my coffee shop, the gym, every single place I had been in the past week. Someone had been following me, filming me, watching. Then came the final video. It started with static, then slowly came into focus. The angle was from inside my bedroom, looking toward the door. I watched, breath caught in my throat as the door opened, and I saw myself walk in, drop my bag, and sit on the bed. The camera zoomed slightly, and in the faint reflection of my bedroom window behind me, I could see a figure standing in the corner. Still, watching. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go to work the next day. I packed a bag and went to stay at a friend's place across town. I changed all my locks, filed another report, and swore to myself I wouldn't go back until I felt safe again. But the thing about safety is that once it's taken from you, it never really comes back. You start noticing things, reflections, shadows, small sounds that never used to matter. A few weeks later, I bought a new laptop. It came sealed, straight from the manufacturer. I unboxed it in front of witnesses, set it up clean. No sign of intrusion, no strange messages, no more flickering lights. For the first time in months, I felt normal again, until I got an email. No subject line, just one sentence. New laptop, nice choice. And below it, an attachment. A photo of me sitting at my new desk, looking right at my screen. It was one of those nights that felt heavier than it should. The kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own breathing. Rain fell in thin streaks against the windows, steady but soft, like static in the background. My apartment was dim except for the TV screen flashing muted images from a crime documentary I wasn't really watching. It was just past 11:40 p.m. I was slumped on my couch, half tuned out, scrolling through emails from work I didn't care about. I remember glancing at the clock and thinking how badly I needed to get off my phone. That's when the text came through. A gray bubble from an unknown number, no profile picture. You shouldn't have gone through her phone. I froze. For a few seconds I stared at the message, my mind catching on those words like a splinter. My ex and I had broken up last week. Nobody knew the real reason, not my friends, not my coworkers. Because I'd gone through her phone, and I found something I wasn't supposed to. Something I never talked about. So, how could someone know? I tried to rationalize it. A prank, a spam text, maybe even one of my friends being clever. But the timing, the precision of it, didn't feel random. I typed back, "Who is this?" and waited. Nothing. A minute later, another message appeared. "You weren't supposed to see that. Now you're part of it." I stared at my phone so long the screen dimmed and went black. My reflection stared back at me, faint and pale. My heart started to thud harder. I typed again, trying to sound irritated instead of unnerved. "This isn't funny. Who the hell are you?" Again, nothing. I got up, pacing the living room. The rain sounded louder now. The apartment felt smaller, as if the walls had pulled in a few inches. I was debating blocking the number when another message appeared. "Check under your front door." That one made my stomach twist. I turned toward the door. The hallway light outside bled faintly through the gap at the bottom, and sure enough, something small and white stuck out from underneath. I hesitated for a long time, listening. No sounds. Finally, I crouched down and slowly reached for it. A folded piece of paper. I yanked it inside and locked the door immediately. The deadbolt clicked with a sound that felt way too loud. The paper was wet around the edges, like it had been left there for a while. I unfolded it carefully. Just one sentence, written in hurried, jagged handwriting. "You're in the wrong apartment." My mind didn't know what to do with that. The wrong apartment? I checked the number on the lease pinned to my fridge, apartment 304. I'd been here for almost a year. My bills came here, my mail, my packages, everything. But something about that message wouldn't leave me alone. The couch I bought secondhand, the mail slot that jammed constantly, the flickering hallway light outside. I'd always assumed those were just quirks of old buildings. But what if they weren't mine? I tried calling my ex, half expecting her to laugh and admit she was behind it. But she didn't pick up. Straight to voicemail. I left a shaky message. Pretending to be calm when I hung up, my phone buzzed again. "Don't call anyone. They'll hear you." That line made my blood run cold. I glanced around the room. The shadows looked deeper now. The rain had stopped. Everything felt too still. I didn't dare move. The only sound was the faint hum of the fridge. I picked up the TV remote and muted the screen, just to listen. And that's when I heard it. A soft scrape, like something brushing against the outside of my front door. I froze. The sound stopped too. I grabbed my phone, hands trembling. Another text came in. "Leave now." My chest tightened. I typed back quickly. "Who are you? What do you mean? What's going on?" No answer. I waited, staring at the screen. The seconds stretched. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then, another message appeared. "If you wait any longer, you won't be able to." That was enough. I grabbed my keys and bolted for the door. I cracked it open just enough to peek out. The hallway was empty, the air still and sterile. The faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like static. I stepped out cautiously. My phone buzzed again. "Don't turn around." I froze where I stood. Every muscle in my body locked up. The words echoed in my head. Then faintly, behind me, I heard it. A single step, bare feet on carpet. I didn't look. I ran. Down the hallway, heart pounding, through the stairwell, out the front door, and into the rain-soaked parking lot. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my keys trying to unlock my car. Once I was inside, I locked the doors and just sat there, gasping. The building loomed in front of me, windows glowing faintly under the flickering streetlight. Nothing moved. That's when I noticed something strange. Through the narrow window in the hallway, I could see the apartment numbers. Mine, 304, was on the right, but the one I'd just run out of was 306. I blinked, my mind trying to catch up. I'd been living in 306. Somehow I'd been in the wrong apartment the entire time. I checked my lease again on my phone. Clear as day, 304. Then I remembered the first night I moved in. The door had been unlocked. I'd just assumed the landlord forgot. The key worked. The layout matched the photos, and no one ever said a word. I looked up again. Apartment 306's window was dark, completely still. Until it wasn't. A faint light flickered on. Someone was inside. I could make out a figure moving, slow. Then they turned toward the window, just standing there, watching. My phone buzzed again. "You shouldn't have left the door unlocked." I stared at the screen, then back at the window. The figure stepped closer, and for a split second, I saw their face illuminated by the TV light. They were sitting in my spot on the couch, a mug beside them. The same documentary flickering across their face. But it wasn't me. And that's when I realized something. My couch, my mug, my jacket on the chair. Those were mine. I hadn't taken them when I ran. Whoever that was, they hadn't just been waiting in that apartment. They'd been watching me live there, day after day, night after night. And I'd never known. My phone buzzed again. "Don't come back. They think you're still inside." A chill ran through me, so sharp it made me shiver. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who was texting me. I drove to a nearby gas station and sat there under the bright fluorescent lights for nearly an hour, trying to convince myself it was all some elaborate prank. But the next morning, when I went back to the building with the landlord, apartment 306 was empty, completely stripped. Not a single piece of furniture, not even a coffee mug. The windows were covered in newspaper from the inside. When I asked the landlord who lived there before me, he frowned. "Nobody," he said. "That unit's been vacant for over 2 years, still waiting on renovation permits." He unlocked the door, and the second it opened, that same smell hit me, the faint trace of my own cologne. Inside, the layout was identical to mine. But where my furniture should have been were faint outlines, lighter patches on the carpet where a couch, a table, and a lamp might have stood. It looked like someone had moved everything out just hours earlier. The landlord called out for maintenance, thinking squatters had broken in. I didn't wait. I just walked out. Later that night, back in my car, I got one final message. "Thank you for keeping the place warm." And then, the number went dead.